Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
How's everybody? Anybody got anything they want to announce? Any good news? Thing that's been popping off this week? Dry as sandpaper as always.
The world's holy day, that's it.
Absolutely.
So everything's just slow motion.
Well, we're going to pick up from where I left off the last time, which was in the law. The law. So last time we was here, we went over the three things that the law does. Anybody remember what three things that the law does? What three things does the law do?
Salvation. Salvation.
We went over specifically three things that the law does. Well, it points out sin, right? It either blesses you or it curses you, depending on which side you fall on. So this week we're going to go into the functions of the law and how it functions. All right, so we're going to go into the function of the law. Let's get Ecclesiastes 12 and 12. Shout out for my iPad, man. This is the first time up here reading, so y'all give my iPad a nice hand for that.
Ecclesiastes 12 and 12. And further by these, my son, be admonished, of making many books there is no end, and of much study is the weariness of the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter.
What we about to hear?
The conclusion of the whole matter.
Read.
Fear Elohim
And do what?
and keep his commandments.
And keep his commandments. Why is this?
For this is the whole duty of man.
Half the duty.
The whole duty of man.
This is the whole duty of man, is to keep his commandments. Let's get Romans chapter 1. We'll pick it up at verse 28.
Romans chapter 1, verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge.
They did what?
They did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge.
So somebody don't want to retain the Most High in their knowledge. So this means they wandering out of the way. Read.
Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind.
Since you didn't want to do what he asked you to do and keep his commandments, he give you over to a reprobate mind.
To do those things which are not convenient.
Hey, I hear a buzzing in this joint. Anybody know that? I keep hearing like a buzzing in the
Is one of the mics
Read that again.
And even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind. To do those things which are not convenient.
One moment. Tick. One. All right. Yeah, it's out here now. Go ahead, read.
Romans 1:28. And even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient.
Go ahead.
Being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness.
So you see all these evil things he mentioned? Watch what he mentioned amongst these things. Read.
maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of Elohim, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding.
Without what?
Without understanding.
So he just mentioned being without understanding amongst all of these foul things that he just said. Without understanding is amongst these things. But without understanding of what? The law. Without understanding of the law. Because if you don't understand the law, then you don't understand what? What sin is. Therefore, you'll be in offense all the time, but you wouldn't even know it. So the law points out what sin is. It gives you understanding to what is what. All right? Finish that out.
Covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of Elohim,
What?
who knowing the judgment of Elohim,
Go ahead.
that they which commit such things are worthy of death.
Worthy of what?
Worthy of death.
Worthy of death. So if you're without understanding, you are worthy of what?
Death.
Worthy of death. That's important to know. So if you're without understanding, it's saying that you are worthy of death. It's mentioning you along the same people as adulterers and whoremongers and murderers and all of these people. Being without understanding is mentioned amongst this. Finish it out.
Not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them.
But not only seeing somebody do it, you got pleasure in it. Psalms 111 and 10. We're going to show how to apply the law. So if we're going to see somebody eating a pork chop, where would we go to show them that it's wrong to do this? The law, right? So if we was talking about head coverings, where would we go to show them? The law, right? But you see how it kind of got quiet on that one? Because everybody wanted to say, oh, in Corinthians. But everything is to the law. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to run to the New Testament to start showing something. You got to be able to go to the Old Testament to be able to show it, because everything is in the law. All right? You got that? Psalms 111:10?
Psalms 111 and 10. The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom.
Is what?
Is the beginning of wisdom.
The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom. Read.
A good understanding have all they that do his commandments.
That do what?
His commandments.
He said a good understanding of all they that do his commandments. So if you don't do them, you don't have understanding, right?
His praise endureth forever.
His praise endureth forever. Psalms 119 and 34. Good.
Psalms 119 and 34. Give me understanding.
Do what?
Give me understanding.
We just read that the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of understanding. Read.
And I shall keep thy law.
And I'll do what?
Keep thy law.
And I will keep the law. Read.
Yea, I shall observe it with my whole heart.
With half your heart.
With my whole heart.
With his whole heart. So that's the purpose of the new covenant, is to do what?
Keep the commandments.
Keep the commandments, to write the laws in your heart. Because in the beginning they was written on stone. But they're going to have to be written in your heart for you to desire to keep them. All right? So we hear, how many laws is it?
613.
613. You'll hear Israelites throw this number out all the time, right? 613 laws, and then you'll hear the people that don't desire to keep them, they'll say that this is too many laws. Nobody can keep all of these laws. Well, nobody had to keep all of these laws because all laws are not for everybody. Right? Let's see. Let's get Deuteronomy 17 and 14. So you don't, no one man or one woman, no one woman or one man has to keep 613 laws. So we can dispel that myth from amongst the people. Read. Deuteronomy 17 and 14.
Deuteronomy 17 and 14. When thou art come unto the land which Yahuwah thy Elohim giveth thee, and shalt possess it, and shalt dwell therein, and shalt say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me, thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom Yahuwah thy Elohim shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee.
So this right here shows that we shouldn't be voting in this system. So when you got a pale face on TV talking about running for president, you should already know that you're not supposed to be voting in this system because you know that this is not your brother. But the law shows us this, right? Read.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself.
He shall not do what?
Multiply horses to himself.
Who is this talking about right now?
King.
The king, right? So this don't got nothing to do with the average person. It's only talking to the king. Read.
Nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as Yahuwah hath said unto you, ye shall not henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself.
Do what?
Multiply wives to himself.
So this is the law of kings. Who broke this law? Solomon broke this law. Because it was directly to the kings not to multiply wives to himself. Read.
That his heart turned not away.
Because that's exactly what happened to Solomon, right? So you see how this law applied to a certain person and not to everybody? So we can't run over here and say this is for everybody. This is talking directly to the kings. Read.
Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. And it shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book.
He shall do what?
Write him a copy of this law in a book.
So the king had to write the law down for himself. Does this talk about the priest? The regular people? The cooks? Talk about the kings. So right here, this means 612 laws that you don't got to follow right here, because this is right here showing that this is talking directly to the kings. But it's important to note, he's telling them that you got to write a law. You got to write this law down. It's important. Read.
A book out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life.
How long?
All the days of his life.
All the days of his life. So the king got to write this law down, and he got to study it day in and day out. Not the prophets, because that stuff wasn't even written. Not the New Testament, not the Psalms, none of that, but the law. He got to write it down so he'll know it day in and day out, all the days of his life. Read.
That he may learn to fear Yahuwah his Elohim.
Because it told us the beginning of understanding is what?
Fear, yeah.
The fear, exactly. Read.
To keep all the words of this law and these statutes to do them. That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel.
Self-explanatory. Joshua chapter 1 and 8. So you got brothers who trying to get off into 1,000 books, and they don't even understand the law. And if you don't understand the law, you are without understanding. So all the 1,000 books you got means nothing if you don't understand the law. So you driving, and somebody took down the signs. The signs say 50 miles an hour, and you driving 75. You're doing what?
Breaking the law.
You're breaking the law, but or they didn't take the signs down, they wrote them in Greek or something, and you looking at the sign like, what is that saying? But you don't know, because you don't know the law. But you still in violation of it, even though you don't know it. So if he pull you over, or you was going 70 in the 50, well, I didn't know it. Too bad. The sign is right there. It's no excuse. He said he without understanding. The stuff is right here in the first 5 books. So if you don't know it, then you can't blame him and say, I didn't know it because I wrote it right here in the first 5 books. Joshua 1 and 8.
Joshua 1 and 8. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth.
What book is this?
The book of the law.
The book of the law. Read.
Shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night.
How long?
Day and night.
Day and night. This book of the law, day and night, you're supposed to meditate on this thing and study it. So before, we don't go to the movies, right, and say the movie is 2.5 hours, and, well, I'm just going to show up for the final 45 minutes of it. That don't make sense, do it? You got to know the beginning. You know what I'm saying? We don't go to the end of the movie and expect to understand it. You got to understand the beginning of what went on so you can understand that part of the book. Because it leads you up to that. Not just jump straight to it. Don't make sense. Read it from the top again.
This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success.
Then thou shalt have good success. But it all comes from what? Knowing this law. He said to make your way prosperous and have good success starts with what? The law. Starts with the law. Let's get Leviticus 14 and 1. Read.
Leviticus 14 and 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, This shall be the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing.
Who is this law for? The leper, right? So this don't apply to everybody. It only applies to who? The leper. So if you don't got leprosy, this ain't for you. Real simple. Leviticus 12 and 1.
Leviticus 12 and 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, Speaking to the children of Israel, saying, If a woman have conceived seed and born a man-child, then she shall be unclean 7 days.
Who is this talking about?
Woman.
The woman. So if you ain't a woman who just had a baby, this ain't about you, right? See, because all of this stuff is broken down into categories. So you don't ever have to say, man, there's 613 laws. Nobody can keep 613 laws because they're not all for you. They're not for everybody.
They got more laws than that on the books in the United States, though. People don't complain about that.
Leviticus 21 and 1.
Leviticus 21:1. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, speak unto the priests.
To who?
Speak unto the priests,
Read.
the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, there shall none be defiled for the dead among his people.
So who is this law for? The priest, right? So again, when you read this does not apply to you. This does not apply to the average person. And the priest can only come from who? The sons of Aaron, to be more specific. So even if you was a Levite, but if you wasn't the son of Aaron, you couldn't be a priest. So we got a whole gang of people calling themselves priest this and priest this, and don't have a clue if they from the tribe of Naphtali or Asher or something, but saying that they priest. Should be doing that. So we see every law is not for everybody. You got to look at specifically and see who is talking to and who is talking about. Now we're going to show how laws are taken out of context. And it's done all the time. Leviticus 19 and 27. So we'll read stuff into the text that's not there. Leviticus 19 and 27.
Leviticus 19:27. You shall not round the corners of your heads.
You should what?
Not round the corners of your heads.
What is this saying? It says that you shall not round the corners of your head. Somebody get the concordance off for me.
Cut off.
That's what that means?
Strike off.
Read the whole thing.
So it's to strike.
To do what?
To strike.
What when you strike something, what do? You hit. So does that mean, does that got something to do with taking a clipper and going around your head? Because this is a strike, right? So every time I ever got a haircut, they didn't hit my head. He said, I'm going to get up out, what I do, what's wrong? Like, so we taking stuff out of content that's not there. It says, do not round, so we will automatically say that, oh, this is talking about a lineup. We don't see what it's talking about. Read.
Neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard.
Neither shall you mar the corners of your beard. What is that talking about? To mar the corners of your beard.
To destroy.
To destroy, right? So we go into that word, it's going to say stuff like to erode or corrode and things of this nature. Anybody ever put some acid on their face? Sulfuric acid. And see, exactly, and then, but that didn't destroy it, because it came back. Matter of fact, keep reading.
You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead.
For who?
For the dead.
For the dead. Make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead. Read.
Nor print any marks upon you. I am Yahuwah.
So let's see who this is talking to in the beginning. Leviticus 19 and 1.
Leviticus 19:1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel.
So now we know he's talking to everybody in this, right? The content shows you who he's talking to. So right here he's talking to everybody. All right? Let's go to Leviticus 20 and 1.
Leviticus 20:1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, again thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones.
So right here, this is a continuation. Chapter 19 and verse 20 is going on into the customs of the people. So what he's talking about doing is the customs that the people in the land keep. Jump down to verse 23.
Verse 23. And ye shall not walk in the manner of the nations which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them.
So he's letting you know what he's talking about in Leviticus 19 is something that the other nations was doing. So if you look into the history, you'll see that the Africans was beating their heads and rounding their heads, making their heads pointy. They was destroying the little beards that they had purposely. But let's see, Rome, what does Deuteronomy mean?
It means to repeat.
To repeat, right? So let's see through scripture, what is it actually talking about? Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 1. So you mentioned over here about rounding your head and printing marks on you and doing these things, and you mentioned something about the dead. Read. Deuteronomy 14 and 1.
Deuteronomy 14 and 1. Ye are the children of Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead.
For who?
For the dead.
So it's talking about not doing these things for the dead. So when it says printing marks upon you, it's talking about for the dead. When it's talking about not rounding your head and doing these things, right here is showing us it's talking about doing this stuff for the dead. So this was their customs. So if you go and get a line, you are not in sin. You are not breaking this commandment. You're not breaking this law. So these brothers will see you and are ready to stone you because you decided that you didn't want this extra hair down here. Oh my goodness, he cut. You know what I'm saying? But this ain't talking about that. So this is taking the law out of context. So again, when we look at who it's actually talking about, you'll see. So we're going to go into detail because we know this ain't good enough. So let's see and make sure that word bar means to destroy. Let's get Genesis 9 and 11. Right. Right. Somebody get the definition for me again. Genesis 9 and 11.
Genesis 9:11. And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore by the waters of a flood.
So right here, we're going to have that same exact word. Get that mark for me again. Because it's going to be that same word that's used for this, meaning to destroy. So if you actually destroy or corrode your beard away, it's not coming back. You got that out? From Genesis 9:11.
It says to destroy, corrupt, go to ruin, decay, to be marked.
The same exact word that we got for that Deuteronomy. So has anybody ever done that to your beard? I don't think so. Isaiah 52 and 14. And look this one up too, up. Isaiah 52:14.
Isaiah 52:14. As many were astonished at thee, his visage was so marred more than any man.
His visage was so marred, go ahead.
More than any man, and his form more than the sons of men.
Get that marred.
Disfigurement, corruption.
It means disfigurement, corruption, but it's got another definition to it, right?
You got disfigurement of face.
Okay, now get that next one.
Corruption, marred.
Same exact thing. So this is showing you it's a difference. It's not talking about cutting your beard, and this is marring you, or marring your beard is not to trim it or get a line. But let's prove it. Leviticus 21:5. So when it's talking about shave, it mentions it. Leviticus 21:5.
Leviticus 21:5. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard.
So now this is directly letting you know that it's talking about what? Shaving, right? You shall not shave off the corners of your beard. But in the theme of this, who is he talking to?
Priest.
Jump back up to verse 1.
Leviticus 21:1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, there shall none be defiled for the dead among his people.
So right here, he's showing you that it's talking directly to the priest. So the priest was not to shave off the sides of their beards. So if you're not a priest, this ain't talking to you. Now we know it was a custom of our people to have a beard. Let's get on 2 Samuel 10:4. But the custom and the law is different. Go ahead.
2 Samuel 10:4. Wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off the one half of their beards, and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away.
He did what?
Shaved off half of their beards,
Shaved off half their beards,
and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks,
so they were sagging the opposite way,
and sent them away.
and sent them away. Read.
When they told it unto David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed.
They were what?
Greatly ashamed.
They were greatly ashamed. So you can just put on another garment, but if your beard is halfway cut off, that's going to take some time, right? Read.
And the king said, tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return.
Don't come out until your bald face is grown back. So we see that it is a custom of our people to have a beard. So even though I'm showing you that this is in the law and they twisting it, still don't cut your beard. That's just me. Alright? So we see that this ain't talking about that. It's been took out of place. So now, let's get into quote-unquote priest. Who did the first priestly duty? The first priestly act, I should ask. Who? Abraham. You say Abraham. Somebody said Aaron. It's Trav, you're not in this. Anybody else? Who did the first priestly act in the book, in the entire book? You say Abraham? Okay, let's see. Okay, well you got it. Let's go.
I had to be way before that. Because even with Cain and Abel, what they do, they had to bring their sacrifices.
Yeah. So he trumped y'all on that one. Let's see. Let's go to Genesis chapter 3 and verse 21. Genesis 3 and 21. Touch your neighbor, say you're going to learn something today. Genesis 3 and 21.
Genesis chapter 3, verse 21. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahuwah Elohim make coats of skins.
Make what?
Coats of skins.
Make coats of skins.
And
Right?
clothed them.
So this is your first priestly act right here. And who's doing this? Who's doing it? But we'll see exactly who's doing it. But this is your first quote-unquote priestly act. Let's jump right back to Genesis 3 and verse 8. So we can get an understanding of who's doing this. Genesis 3 and 8.
Genesis 3, verse 8. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim.
They heard what?
They heard the voice.
They heard the who?
They heard the voice.
They heard a voice, right? Doing what?
Of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden.
Wait a minute, they heard a voice walking. How does a voice walk? So it's a voice that's walking. Read it again so they can get it.
And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden.
So the voice is walking. A voice does what? Speaks. Voice, right? Let's get John 1 and 1. Smart man. John 1 and 1.
John chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word.
Was the what?
Was the Word.
What does a word do? Speaks. It's a voice. Read.
And the Word was with Elohim.
Oh, somebody was back there with him. Read.
And the Word was Elohim.
So the word was, and the word was with him. So you kind of get the understanding. So when all the time when the prophets say, and the word came to me, what does that mean? Did they just like was sitting there and all of a sudden like some voice was talking? Go there, my son. Was that what happened?
Spirit.
The Spirit? Okay. Let's see. Let's let the book speak. Jeremiah 1 and 4. Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 4. Go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4. Then the word of Yahuwah came unto me, saying.
So the word came, right? I always beforehand, before like 2 years ago, I always thought that this meant like they'd be sitting somewhere and the voice would just pop in their head and they'll just, oh, y'all just told me something. This is what I thought like until like 2 years ago. Read.
Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
Ordained thee a prophet to the nations. So we see that the word came to Jeremiah, right? And it was saying, jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. Then Yahuwah put forth his hand.
He did what?
He put forth his hand.
He did what?
Put forth his hand.
This is a physical action, right? He put forth his hand and did what?
Touched my mouth.
Did what?
Touched my mouth.
So he just told us in verse 4 that the word came, right? So the word is right here in some sort of a physical form. Read verse 9 again.
Then Yahuwah put forth his hand and touched my mouth.
Did what?
Put forth his hand and touched my mouth.
Put forth his hand and touched his mouth. So when it say, and the word came to me, it literally came to them. Or he literally came to them. Finish that out.
Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant.
So most people will say that this is talking to Jeremiah. But we can see that this is talking way past Jeremiah. Read that again.
See, I have this day set thee over the nations.
Jeremiah wasn't set over the nations. Read.
And over the kingdoms.
Jeremiah wasn't set over the kingdoms. Read.
To root out and to pull down.
Jeremiah didn't do none of this. Read.
And to destroy.
He didn't do this. Read.
And to throw down. And to build and to plant.
So we see this is talking way past Jeremiah. Let's get Ezekiel chapter 8. Pick it up at verse 1.
Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 1. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in mine house, and the elders of Judah sat before me, that the hand of Yahuwah Elohim,
Who?
the hand of Yahuwah Elohim,
Who's the hand?
Mashiach,
The hand came and did this. Read.
fell there upon me. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber.
So the hand is there with him. Let's get Malachi chapter 2 and verse 5. Malachi 2 and 5.
Malachi chapter 2, verse 5. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name.
Was afraid before my name. So on the surface, we know that this is talking to the priest. But according to these scriptures that we read, who did the first priestly act? Go ahead.
The law of truth was in his mouth.
What is it?
The law of truth was in his mouth,
The law of truth was in his mouth. Read.
and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity.
Go ahead.
For the priest's lips should keep knowledge.
So the priest's lips should keep knowledge. Verse 6, it says, the law of truth was in his mouth. Then it says, for the priest's lips should keep knowledge. According to scripture, the beginning of knowledge comes from the fear of Yah, which is the law. Read.
And they should seek the law at his mouth.
They should do what?
Seek the law at his mouth.
Seek the law at his mouth. So we got to know everything that Mashiach was speaking was from what?
The law.
The law. So when we go over to and see what Mashiach is speaking, we got to reference it back to the law in order to get proper understanding of what he's saying and what he's doing in everything. And the same thing you got to do with Paul and Peter and the rest of them. Because everything go back to the law. If you don't understand the law, you really don't understand what's going on in the book. Read that verse 7 again.
For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth.
Because he's gonna speak the law, because the law is at his mouth. Read.
For he is the messenger of Yahuwah of hosts.
All right. So right here, this is Hamashiach that it's talking about. On the surface, it's talking to the earthly priest, but beyond that, it's talking to Hamashiach. Let's get John 17 and 8. Go ahead.
John 17 and 8. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me.
He said, I have given them the words which thou gavest me. So, where did the Mashiach get his words from? The Most High. But the law. Go ahead.
For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me.
Same way that Eve came out from Adam, he came out from the Father. Let's get John chapter 12 and verse 48. John 12 and 48.
John 12:48. He that rejecteth me,
I want y'all to keep this word right here in mind. Reject. He that rejecteth me. So lay that up, keep that in mind, write it down. Read.
He that rejecteth me and receiveth not my words hath one that judgeth him. The word that I have spoken.
The word that I have spoken. Where's the words that he spoke from? Where do they come from? The law. Keep that in mind. Read.
The same shall judge him in the last day.
So something gonna judge him in the last day. If you reject him, something gonna judge you in the last day. Read.
For I have not spoken of myself,
I didn't speak of myself. Read.
but the Father which sent me. He gave me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak.
So he didn't speak his own words. This is what he let you know right here. But the Father gave me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. So he didn't come and tell you nothing that he wanted to tell you himself. He only spoke the Father's words. Read.
And I know that his commandment is life everlasting. Whosoever I speak, therefore, even as the Father said unto me, so I speak.
So I speak. So he let you know everything that I speak only what the Father told me to speak. I don't speak nothing of myself, only what the Father told me to speak. So how did he overcome the devil?
Spoke the law.
He did what?
Spoke the word.
Spoke the law. Let's go there right quick. Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4. After leave, they're going to flee after a minute because they're going to see. He know what he's talking about. It ain't going to work over here. But we know Lucy always come back in another fashion to try to get you. So let's go to John chapter 8 and verse 1. Now it's a lot that's happening in this story. It's a whole lot of action that's happening in this story. But we've been reading over it and not getting it. We're going to get it today. John chapter 8 and verse 1.
John chapter 8 verse 1. Yahushua went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and talked. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery.
So he's got the scribes and the Pharisees, right? They taught what?
The law.
They taught what was supposed to be the law, right? Now remember I told y'all that phrase, he that rejects me. I told y'all to keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. Did the scribes and Pharisees reject him? Absolutely, right? Same thing, because they were the quote-unquote leaders of the people. So we got the same thing, the same dynamic happening today. The leaders are causing the people to go astray. All right? Read that verse 3 again.
And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moshe in the law commanded us.
He said what?
Now Moshe in the law commanded us that
Moshe and what?
in the law.
So they trying to quote the law. Moses in the law, read.
Commanded us that such should be stoned. But what says thou?
Go ahead.
This they said tempting him.
They did what?
This they said tempting him.
They are tempting him. They purposely doing this. They are tempting him, right? Now, what's the first thing that they have done that's wrong in this scenario so far? Exactly. Now, they're supposed to be the Pharisees, and they're supposed to be the teachers of the law. So they just brought this woman here, but they didn't bring the man. Because the law exclusively says that you must bring both. But they went back to the law. They quoted, said Moses. Moses in the law says that we should stone one that does this. Let's get Exodus 17, verse 1. Exodus 17:1.
Exodus 17, verse 1. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandment of Yahuwah and pitched in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink.
There was no what?
There was no water for the people to drink.
There was no water for the people to drink. I want y'all to keep that in mind right there, that this is about water. Right here. Keep that in mind. Read.
Wherefore the people did chide with Moses and said, give us water that we may drink.
He said that they chided with Moses. What does this chide mean? It means to argue or debate. What are the scribes and Pharisees always doing with a Mashiach? Always trying to argue and debate with him, right? So we see this go back to the same thing. The law. Arguing and debate with him. And they doing this over what? Water right here, right? Read that again so we can catch it. Verse 1.
And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandment of Yahuwah and pitched in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink.
There was no water for the people to drink. So they argued and complaining. Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah because of the chiding of the children of Israel and because they tempted Yahuwah, saying, is Yahuwah among us or not?
So they tempted him again. Same exact thing. Is he among us or not? He brought us out here. They complaining, going on. The same exact thing all the way back in the law. Let's get Deuteronomy 6:16. So the scribes and Pharisees, they came and was tempting him. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 16. Ye shall not tempt Yahuwah your Elohim as you tempted him in Massah.
So right here, the same exact thing that the Pharisees was doing, the children of Israel was doing back here in the wilderness. They was purposely tempting him. Numbers 20:13. Numbers 20:13. Numbers 20:13.
Numbers 20:13. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with Yahuwah, and he was sanctified in them.
So what does this strove mean? Murmur, argue, debate, argue. So the children of Israel had the nerve to actually argue and debate and strive with him. The Pharisees is doing the same thing over here. So he's showing you the same pattern all the way back in the law. Let's go back to John chapter 8 and pick it up at verse 6.
John chapter 8, verse 6. This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yahushua stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not.
He did what?
He stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not.
So he stooped down and wrote on the ground, right? With his finger, he wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. Why did he write on the ground? Anybody ever ask yourself this when you read this? Like, I wonder what did he write? Why did he write on the ground? Anybody? We'll see in a minute. But he says he wrote with his finger, right? Let's get on. Yeah, exactly. Let's get Deuteronomy 8 and 10. Yeah, my bad. Deuteronomy chapter 9 and 10.
Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 10. And Yahuwah delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim.
Written with what?
With the finger of Elohim.
Written with the finger of Elohim. The same finger. Let's see. Finish that out.
And on them was written according to all the words which Yahuwah spake with you in the mount, out of the midst of the fire, in the day of the assembly.
So let's see who this finger is. That's Luke 11 and 20. Luke chapter 11 and verse 20. Go ahead.
Luke chapter 11, verse 20. But if I, with the finger of Elohim, cast out devils, no doubt the kingdom of Elohim is come upon you.
So he is the finger that wrote the stuff, that wrote the commandments on the stones. He is that finger that did that. All right, let's go back to John chapter 8. It's going to all make sense in a minute. John chapter 8, pick it up at verse 7.
John chapter 8, verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast the stone at him.
So if you don't have any sins, you be the first one to pick up the stones and cast it at this woman. Why did he say this?
It's in the law.
Trying to kill her.
You know it's
Exactly, it's in the law. But why did he say this? Where is this at?
I got a book, but I ain't gonna use it.
Okay. In fact, let's read verse 8. So we see in verse 6, he stopped what he was doing and he wrote in the ground. He basically ignored him. And then they continued messing with him and continued going at him, right? Verse 8.
And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground.
So again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground as though as he tried to give him a chance, right? Let's see. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20 and 14. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 14. Go ahead.
Exodus 20 and 14. Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Thou shalt do what?
Not commit adultery.
Because this is what they bring in the woman up charges, right? You shall not commit adultery. So they said that this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. The law right here says you shall not commit adultery. Let's get Leviticus 20 and 14. And we know that these scribes and Pharisees were supposed to know what?
The law.
The law. Leviticus 20 and 14.
Leviticus 20 and 14. If a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness.
It is what?
If a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness.
Go ahead.
They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. And if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death.
Okay, we do it right there. But if you do these things, it is wickedness. You're supposed to be burned with fire. Let's go back to the John 8 and 7 again. Good.
John chapter 8, verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her.
Verse 8.
And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahushua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst.
All right, so they didn't do nothing. They didn't stone the woman like they was trying to get him to do. So let's see why. Let's go back to the law. Deuteronomy chapter 17. Deuteronomy 17 and 6. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy 17 and 6. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death.
So at the mouth of 2 to 3 witnesses, he that is worthy of death shall be put to death. So is adultery worthy of death? It's worthy of death, right?
Yes.
So they were trying to get the Messiah to do what? To stone this woman, right? Read on.
But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death.
Read on.
The hands of the witnesses shall be first upon him to put him to death.
So the people that see this or witness it, they are the first people that's supposed to throw the stones first. So these scribes and Pharisees were the first ones to see the woman, right? And they brought her to him, right? Finish that out.
And afterward the hands of all the people. So that
Go ahead.
so thou shalt put the evil away from among you.
So since they brought her, they were supposed to be the first people that stoned her. That's why he said, he that is without sin, cast the first stone. But they know that they are out of order with what they're doing. Deuteronomy 19 and 16. Deuteronomy 19 and 16.
Deuteronomy 19:16. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before Yahuwah, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition, and behold, if the witness be a false witness, and have testified falsely against his brother,
And did what?
testified falsely against his brother,
So all the judges shall make diligent inquisitions, and behold, if a witness be a false witness, and have testified falsely against his brothers, are these scribes and Pharisees testifying falsely?
Yes.
Absolutely. Read.
Then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you.
So if you bear false witness, the same thing that you purpose to put on somebody else, according to the law, it's supposed to come back on you. These scribes and Pharisees know this, but they still trying to twist this stuff. Let's go back to John, chapter 8 and 8. In fact, pick it up at 6.
John chapter 8, verse 6. This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yahushua stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground.
So now we got to figure out, why did he stoop down and write on the ground? Why did he do this? We know it was not just to be writing on the ground. But these scribes and Pharisees, they knew who he is and knew who he was. Let's find out why he wrote on the ground. Jeremiah 17 and 13. So remember, what was the children of Israel striving with him about? They was brought by what? Water, right? Keep that in mind. They was arguing with him about water. They was tempting him about water. Jeremiah 17 and 13. Go ahead.
Jeremiah 17 and 13. O Yahuwah, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed.
All that forsake thee. Now notice how this is written. It says, O Yahuwah, the hope. If we go into this word hope, it's going to lead you just like to water. Or it should say like, O Yahuwah, the immerser of Israel. All that forsake you. Go ahead.
And they that depart from me shall be written in the earth.
Now it switches. He says, and they that departs from me shall be written where?
In the earth.
They shall be written in the earth. So when he wrote on the ground, this is what he was actually doing. All that forsake me shall be written in where?
The earth.
The earth. What is the dust?
Earth.
The earth. So he was showing right here, he was fulfilling this right here. Read it from the top again.
O Yahuwah, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed, and they that depart from me shall be written in the earth.
Or written in the dust. Read.
Because they have forsaken Yahuwah, the fountain of living waters.
The fountains of what?
Living waters.
Living water. So they was arguing with him in the wilderness, back in the law, about what? About water, right? Right here he says, because they have forsaken Yahuwah, the fountain of living waters. Let's go back to John chapter 7. So remember, the scribes and Pharisees follow him around everywhere he going, trying to trip him up. But they actually tripping their own self up. John chapter 7 and verse 37.
John chapter 7, verse 37. In the last day, that great day of the feast, Yahushua stood and cried, saying, If any man thirst.
If any man what?
If any man thirst.
If any man thirst. Read.
Let him come unto me and drink.
Let him come unto me and drink. Read.
He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water.
Out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. So he let them know right here in the chapter before that he was the fountain of the living waters. The scribes and Pharisees are right there with him. Jump down to verse 45.
Verse 45. Then came the officers to the chief priests and the Pharisees, and they said unto them, Why have ye not brought him? The officers answered, Never man spake like this man. Then answered them the Pharisees, Are ye also deceived?
The Pharisees said, Are y'all deceived too? Read.
Have any of the rulers or of the Pharisees believed on him?
So they think that the Pharisees might be falling for it. Read.
But this people who knoweth not the law are cursed.
Say what?
Who knoweth not the law are cursed.
So he just said it right here. Pharisees is speaking. They condemn their own self by their own words. But the people that don't know the law are cursed. And now they're supposed to be the teachers of the law, he just let them know that he was the living water right here. Jeremiah 17:13 says they forsake the fountain of the living water. And when you do this, they names are written in what? The earth. So when he stopped and stooped down and wrote on the ground, he was showing them right there, I'm the fountain of the living waters. You scribes and Pharisees have rejected me. So instead of your name being written in the other book, you written in the earth. Because he said, I call heaven and earth against you this day. So if you ain't written in the heavens, you'll be written in the dirt. So that's why he stopped, stooped down, and wrote in the dirt. Go back to that Jeremiah 17:13. All right, go ahead.
Jeremiah 17:13. O Yahuwah, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed, and they that depart from me shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken Yahuwah, the fountain of living waters.
So he showed them right there in the chapter before that he was the fountain of the living waters, and they rejected him. He stopped what he was doing, but they continued trying to get this woman stoned, showing that they really didn't know the law like they were supposed to know it. And they just said it in John 7:45, or somewhere up in there, that if you don't know the law, you are accursed. And they showed they really didn't know it. But he says, all that forsake him, or they are written in the earth or in the dust, because they are forsaken Yahuwah, the fountain of living waters. So if you're written in the earth, that means you're not written in the other place. Exodus 32:32. Right back to the law. Exodus 32:32. Go ahead.
Exodus 32:32.
Matter of fact, pick it up at verse 31.
Exodus 32:31. And Moshe returned unto Yahuwah and said, O, this people have sinned a great sin, and have made the mighty ones of gold. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written.
Out of what?
Out of thy book which thou hast written.
Out of thy book which thou hast written. So if you written in the dirt, automatically you blotted out of the book. Verse 33.
And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, whosoever hath sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book.
Now notice what he says. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, whosoever have sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Who was the scribes and Pharisees sinning against? Exactly. So he let them know to their face. This is why they all walked away, I'm sure. After he rolled in that ground and said what he said, it kicked in. Jeremiah 17:3. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure it clicked in, and they knew that this was saying that they was written out of the book. Let's go back. Let's Revelations 21:27. Revelations 21. Yeah, verse 27.
Revelations 21:27. And there shall in no wise enter in. Excuse me. Revelation 21:27. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination, or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life.
Written in the Lamb's book of life. So them guys, they just got themselves wrote out of it. Sad thing to get written out of that book of life. But it all goes with understanding of the law. Now let's go back to that story. John chapter 8, pick it up at verse 9. Matter of fact, pick it up at verse 7.
John chapter 8, verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast the stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, being at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahushua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst.
Now he says, he that is without sin cast the first stone. Why did nobody stone her? Everybody has sin? But there was one person that was standing there that could have picked up a stone and stoned her. Exactly. Hamashiach was without sin. He could have picked the stone up and stoned the woman. But why didn't he? Is he condoning sin? Y'all all right with me. Y'all all right with me. Y'all all right with me.
That blood was on his hand.
Exactly. Read that verse 9 again.
Verse 9. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahushua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. And when Yahushua had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers?
Where they at? Where are them people? Where the scribes and Pharisees at? That was just talking about stoning you. Where are they at? And why didn't they stone you? Read.
Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, master. And Yahushua said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more.
Do what?
Sin no more.
Go and sin no more. So he acknowledges that this woman is guilty. She in some sort of a sin, because he just let her know. Go and sin no more. But why didn't he get at her? Why didn't he get at her like everybody else would do?
They didn't bring them in.
But he still knows she said it because he told her,
Right.
go and sin no more. So he knows that she's guilty, right?
Because she didn't know the law? I don't know.
She knew the law.
She knew it. She had no witnesses.
Let's get John 3 and 17. John 3 and 17. Go ahead.
John chapter 3, verse 17. For Elohim sent not his son into the world to condemn the
He did
world.
what?
Sent not his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved.
The world through him might be saved. So he's showing the grace and the mercy, the aspect, because in actuality, everybody's supposed to be stoned and killed already. You know what I'm saying? Before you knew better, everybody already supposed to be stoned and killed and dead. Read verse 18.
He that believeth on him is
He that
not,
what?
He that believeth on him is not condemned.
Because he told us right over there, the first thing I told y'all to remember was what? They that reject him. Read that verse again.
He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already.
Your name already written in the dirt. Go ahead.
because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of Elohim.
Because you didn't believe, and you said you didn't believe, you rejected him. It's already written. Let's go back to John 8. Pick it up at verse 10 again.
John 8 and 10. When Yahushua had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, master. And Yahushua said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more.
Go and sin no more. It's another killer for the church. He didn't say, well, you can keep doing what you're doing because I'm going to die for you in a couple of days. Another killer for the church, right? Because he flat out telling her, go and sin no more. Even though he know I'm going to die, he didn't say, after I die, then you can continue sinning. He said, go and sin no more. Let's go back to the old, because this thing is about the scribes and Pharisees making false accusations and not following the law to a T like they supposed to be doing. Right? Let's go to Hosea 4. So it was the scribes and the Pharisees, which would have been the so-called teachers or the priests, right? Hosea 4. And the famous verse 6. That's who this really, really talking to. Because we can use it, but it's specifically talking to a certain people and about a certain thing. Somebody stole Hosea. Hosea 4 and 6. They stole my Hosea out of here. Okay, I think just put it back in there. Hosea 4 and 6.
Hosea 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, right? This is one of the most famous verses in the book. Everybody use. You can use it because the people are destroyed, but it's specifically talking to somebody. Read.
Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee.
Also reject you. Because they rejected him, right? Read.
That thou shalt be no priest to me.
Because the quote-unquote scribes and Pharisees was what? The priests, right? Read.
Seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy Elohim.
They forgot what?
The law of thy Elohim.
It's supposed to have been the very thing that they supposed to have been teaching was the law. But it says, seeing that you have forgotten the law of Elohim, go ahead.
I will also forget thy children.
That's heavy. Not just them, but your children. So we see that this is directly talking about the priests or the scribes and the Pharisees, because they was the one that was trying to tempt him and get him caught up the whole time, right? Read verse 7.
As they were increased, so they sinned against me.
So we know that the scribes and Pharisees was living the high life, right? As they increased, they sinned against them. Read.
Therefore will I change their esteem into shame.
So when they see their names written on that ground, shame. They all left one by one. I got to go. God, he just hit me with the dagger. Verse 8.
They eat up the sin of my people, and they set their heart on their iniquity.
They eat up the sin of my people, and they set their hearts on their iniquity. So the scribes and Pharisees was making a killing off the people, not having proper understanding, using the stuff against the people, adding all type of burdens to the law, purposely. But don't think it ain't happening right now. It's happening right now. to some people that a lot of y'all might look up to and call them priest this, and priest this, and elder this. Verse 9.
And there shall be like people, like priests, and I will punish them for their ways, and reward them for their doings.
And reward them for their doings. But it's another reason that he didn't get that woman. Jump down to verse 14.
Verse 14. I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredom.
I will not do what?
Punish your daughters when they commit whoredom.
He says, I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredoms. It's all the way back here for him not to do this when they bring this woman in this thing. It's already been written. Read that again.
I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredom, nor your spouses when they commit adultery.
Because they didn't bring the man. He wasn't there. Read.
For themselves are separated with whores.
For themselves are separated with whores. We know the scribes and Pharisees, they supposed to have been teaching the law, but they was breaking the stuff all the time themselves. That's why he says the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Do what they tell you to do, but don't do after their works. Because they was doing the very same things that they was bringing the woman to be condemned with. Read that from the top again.
I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredom, nor your spouses when they commit adultery. For themselves are separated with whores, and they sacrifice with harlots. Therefore the people that doth not understand shall fall.
The people that what?
That doth not understand shall fall.
So when we read Romans 1 and 28 and 29, it says something about they without understanding, right? Right here, for the people that do not understand shall fall.
How long we been going, man?
Hour and 40 minutes.
Hour 40 minutes. We got a couple more minutes. Let's get on. Matthew 5. We went here the last time, right? And we showed the reason why heaven and earth has to pass before the law is, why is that? The two witnesses, right? So we're going to go back into the same scripture again and show something else. Matthew 5:17.
Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
But to fulfill. I didn't come to destroy it. I came to fulfill it. I came to show you that you actually can do it in the flesh. Read.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Till all be fulfilled. So heaven and earth can't pass until all be fulfilled, because they are the two witnesses. Read.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
What does it mean to be called the least in the kingdom? What does that mean? Any takers? No takers? Go ahead. That brother cannot play. Any other takers? What does it mean to be called the least in the kingdom? How do we usually explain this when we talking to somebody?
We usually say that's the lady.
Right, that's what we use. What was your take on that?
The abhorring of all flesh, the sight. You ain't gonna make it.
Okay, so that's what we was taught, that being the least in the kingdom means. Read that verse again. Start from the top again.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of Shemayim.
So he's in the kingdom though, right? Right here? We agree? But
Host of the kingdom shall fall into grace.
oh, but it say right here, it says, he shall be called the least in the kingdom. So according to this, is he in the kingdom? He not? But it say he in it.
Trick question.
It's not a trick though, yeah, it's not a trick. So it says, if you teach and break one of these least commandments, he shall be called the least in the kingdom. All right, read the next part of it.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom.
So is they in it? Because it says that they are great in the kingdom. So it says somebody's going to be great, and then it says somebody's going to be least. So we got two categories so far, right? Y'all agree? Greatest, least, right? Read the next verse.
For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of Shemayim.
So right here it says, if your righteousness don't surpass the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no wise enter into the kingdom. But verse 18, verse 19 says that these other people was in the kingdom. Right? But this verse says, if your righteousness don't surpass the scribes and Pharisees' righteousness, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. So these people are not being mentioned to be in the kingdom. Is that what we just read? But let's see, how can we get understanding with this? Where should we go? What part of the book should we go to? To where? Wow, we need to go to the law to find out. Because we got three categories right here. We got the greatest, the least, and the people that says, if your righteousness don't surpass the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall not enter in. Because it directly says the people that are least, they are in it. Let's go back and see. Numbers chapter 15. Remember, we got three categories. Numbers chapter 15 and verse 22. Numbers 15 and 22. Go ahead.
Numbers 15:22. And if you have erred and not observed all these commandments which Yahuwah hath spoken unto Moshe, even all that Yahuwah hath commanded you by the hand of Moshe from the day that Yahuwah commanded Moses, and henceforth among your generations, then it shall be, if aught be committed by ignorance.
By what?
If aught be committed by ignorance.
If aught be committed by ignorance. Now, this is one of the great questions that we always ask, right? If my great-grandmother, she didn't find out about the Torah and the law and all of this stuff, and they'd be like, is my grandmother going to hell because she didn't find out this stuff, right? We see the Most High is so merciful. We started at 22.
And if you have erred and not observed all these commandments which Yahuwah hath spoken unto Moshe, even all that Yahuwah hath commanded you by the hand of Moshe from the day that Yahuwah commanded Moshe, and henceforth among your generations, then it shall be, if aught be committed by ignorance.
By what?
By ignorance.
So if aught be committed by ignorance, read,
without the knowledge of the congregation, that all the congregation shall offer one young bullock for a burnt offering, for a sweet savor unto Yahuwah, with his meat offering and his drink offering, according to the manner, and one kid of the goats for a sin offering.
Go ahead.
And the priest shall make an atonement for all the congregation of the children of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them. For it is ignorance.
For is what?
For it is ignorance.
For it is ignorance. So we had people in our lives that went to Sunday church and they was completely sincere in going because this is all that they know. And they were worshiping to the fullest of their ability, thinking that they was doing right. But they was doing it out of what? Ignorance, right? So we know when he given this commandment, this thing was given to everybody. It wasn't no reason for nobody to be in ignorance. But the Most High still set the law for the people that do stuff out of ignorance. Read.
And they shall bring an offering, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yahuwah, and their sin offering before Yahuwah for their ignorance.
For what?
For their ignorance.
So he making a way for even the people that sinned against him out of ignorance. Because he don't really want to throw nobody in the fire. So we know it's a whole bunch of people that was breaking his laws and going against him out of ignorance. Now the Most High know the hearts and the reins of everybody. This is why he said he tried the hearts and the reins. So if they was doing this thing sincerely, even if they died, it's something that he got for you. It's called the sin of ignorance. So this is one category right here, right? This is somebody that's committing sin out of ignorance, but he makes an atonement for these people who sin ignorantly. Let's jump down to verse 29.
Ye shall have one law for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them. But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously,
That do what?
doeth aught presumptuously,
That doeth aught presumptuously, meaning you know what you're doing, you're purposely doing it, which is the scribes and the Pharisees. They knew the law. Read.
whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth Yahuwah, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Because he hath despised the word of Yahuwah and hath broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off. His iniquity shall be upon him.
His iniquity shall be upon him. So now we got two categories, right? We got the people who sin out of ignorance, and then we got the people who sin on purpose, that know that what they're doing. But it's a third category of people, right? It's the people who actually keep the law, who actually walk it out. So we go back to the Matthew 5 and 17. He says, he that least, greatest, and the people that don't enter. Let's go back over there. Matthew 5, 18. Go ahead.
Matthew 5:18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
So we got a whole bunch of people right now that's teaching that the law is done away with because they're doing stuff that's been passed down to them. And the people are following them out of what?
Ignorance.
Ignorance, right? So they're going to be called the least. Read.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of Shemayim.
So what are we doing? We're teaching you to what?
Keep the commandments.
To keep the commandments. So this means if you're teaching it, you shall be greater than the people who are doing this because they're doing it out of ignorance. But then he says in verse 29 through 32 that it's somebody that's breaking it on purpose. And we know the scribes and Pharisees was these people that was doing this. Read the next verse.
For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of Shemayim.
So you won't get in. So these people are in the kingdom, They just are least because they are sinning out of ignorance. So it's showing you the Most High really, really don't want to throw nobody in the lake. This is why he ain't even throwing Satan in it yet. Because he really don't want to do it. So the people that actually gonna go is because you really, really rotten. You really, really rotten and you don't want it. Because he's making a way, because right there in Numbers, he gave the law to everybody. It's no reason for them to be ignorant. Right? It's no purpose for them to be ignorant. And he still set a law for them. If you break it out of ignorance, you didn't know you was doing it. I know you know, but you didn't know you was doing it. I'm going to make a way for you. Man. That's mercy right there. That's grace right there. Because these people ain't purposely doing it. They really wholeheartedly think that they doing this stuff. Now it's a thin line between these lines though. Because when I roll up on you and I show it to you, and then give me Hebrews 10 and 26. So it's a very, very thin line between being ignorant and rejecting. So when we talk with them pastors, were they ignorant or did they reject? They rejected, right? But we know a lot of people is taught in that Christian mind frame, don't even listen to them. But if they come up and the old guys with the beards and dang around their head, don't you even listen to them. They already got it shut down. They're not going to hear you. It's already been programmed in them not to listen. Go ahead. Hebrews 10 and 26.
Hebrews 10:26. For if we sin willfully.
If we do what?
Sin willfully.
If we sin willfully. Just like the people in Numbers 15, 29, 20, 30, 31. They sinned willfully. Read.
After that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins.
There remain no more sacrifice for sin. So you fall into that category. So when it comes to our people and they reject it, it's the difference between not knowing and rejecting. It's a real, real thin line. So with that, pray y'all got some understanding and see everything got to go back to the law. With that we say, Shalom.